Over the course of this video, I plan to show you as accurately as I can the difference between mediocre sound resonance, mediocre soundboard, mediocre speaker versus an excellent soundboard, excellent sound resonance, excellent speaker, and everything in between. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to be showing you those 5 sabers back there. It is the 89 Sabers Fallen V2, Sabertrio Vektra with a crystal focus tin. The Fallen V2 has a Proffie. The Electrum Sabercrafts Evo-Flex with the Diadium 3 soundboard. Pach Flyte with the Asteria Light or Flyte soundboard. And the Crimson Dawn Shrike or an LGT Saber. That has a V4 soundboard, not the new V6 RGBX soundboard that they're currently using. So over the course of this video, I plan to show you what soundboard, what speaker, what saber sounds the most accurate, what sounds the most realistic, what sounds the best. Now, obviously in person versus on video, there will be a difference. You know, it's the same thing with light on video. Light looks different on video compared to how it does in person. So sound is the same thing. I have a good mic, so hopefully it picks it up. I can't guarantee it does. I won't know until I actually edit the video and then I take a look at it. I'll be able to tell what sounds good, what doesn't sound good. But in person, I can definitely tell 100%. I can tell the difference. So there are a lot of factors when talking about sound that a lot of people don't understand. So one of them, and it sounds really stupid, but sometimes people have issues with sound or they think sound sounds bad because of their battery life. Now, if you have an issue with your battery, like one of the cells are messed up or something like that, then obviously you're going to have issues with your electronics in your saber. But if your battery level is low, that can affect both the light and the sound in your saber, and it just won't sound as good. So just make sure your battery life is on the up and up. Make sure you keep up with your battery life. That's important for light purposes and for sound purposes. Another thing that's also kind of weird is for sabers that do have a micro SD card that's being put in use by the soundboard, you know, Crystal Focus 10, Proffie, Golden Harvest, all that kind of stuff. Those have micro SD cards. If you have a micro SD card that does not have a fast read to write speed, then you could have worse sound quality. Now, that is partially due, or actually mainly due, to the fact that there are multiple audio streams being used by the soundboard. So if you have a very slow read to write time on your micro SD card, it can't play as many sounds at once. If you have one that has a really fast read to write time, then you can have a micro SD card that is being put in use by your soundboard that can maximize its potential. I think on both the Crystal Focus 10 and on the Proffie manuals, there are lists or maybe like a chart or something that shows some of the common micro SD cards that people use, and it shows, you know, how many audio streams per second or how many simultaneous audio streams that can be played. There is a difference, people. Like there's a tangible, audible difference between soundboards or sabers that are using really bad micro SD cards and sabers and soundboards that are using really good micro SD cards. SanDisk ones, I mean, there are very common ones out there that are being used. Most saber companies use really good micro SD cards, but just keep in mind, I mean, if you're getting a saber installed by someone and they put a really bad micro SD card in there, then you may suffer in terms of sound quality. So those are just two really quick and weird things that a lot of people don't understand or they don't even realize about their saber sound quality. Now, other factors are obviously going to play. So which sound font you're using, if the font maker actually mixed it correctly, how high the volume is on that font, what kind of bass there is in the font, what kind of dynamic range is that font hitting. I mean, there are all different factors like that that are, you know, in the sound font realm in terms of audio for your saber. So, I mean, look, there's a million different sound fonts out there by a million different people, and all of them sound different, both in volume, in terms of just overall sound, how they actually sound, dynamic range, I mean, the pitch modulation. I mean, there are all kinds of different sound fonts out there that sound totally different on different sabers. I mean, you could have the exact same sound font on one saber, put it on your another saber, and it sounds a lot different. And I'm going to show you that later in this video. So, sound fonts, battery life, micro SD card, they obviously play a part in audio. Another one is speaker, and that is one of, if not the most important part. If you don't have a speaker, then you can't have audio. You can't have sound. In terms of speakers, there are, you know, 28 millimeter Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker. There are the Custom Saber Shop WOW speaker, the KR bass speaker. There are other Saber Essentials bass speaker. I mean, there are high quality speakers out there that are really good that are being put in use by some of the top saber companies out there. There are other speakers that are cheaply made, that cost, $1, $2, $3, and they aren't good quality speakers. So I have one of these Sabers has a not great quality speaker in it because it's an older soundboard, and that is the Crimson Dawn Shrike. That's of no fault to Crimson Dawn. That was what LGT used to use. They changed it up. Now they're using a bass speaker. And there is a difference. There is a massive difference between the two. I'm going to show you the difference between that premium speaker that they used to use versus, a high quality speaker like a Vekko that is in the Sabertrio Vektra, or a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost based speaker that's in my Fallen V2. There is a very obvious difference, both in person and on video. So speaker, micro SD card, the sound font, your battery life, also the soundboard. So soundboards, I'm not going to go into technical detail about how they all work, because personally I don't know everything about soundboards. I just know a little bit. So some of the common soundboards, I've already done videos on soundboards and I've talked about soundboards in the past, but Crystal Focus 10, Proffie 2.2, Golden Harvest V3, Asteria, Verso, Diadium 3. I mean, those are just some of the ones that have smooth swing capability and functionality. So smooth swing, if you don't know, I've covered it before in the past in my video about, beginner's guide to buying lightsabers. I kind of, defined what smooth swing is, and I kind of shown a demo, and I've talked about smooth swing a lot in the past. If you don't know what smooth swing is, go check out some of those videos. Look up what smooth swing is. It's pretty simple, and it's becoming the standard nowadays, which I'm really happy to see. So smooth swing, the boards that support it, Crystal Focus 10, Proffie, all those soundboards, they have gyroscopes and all kind of little things on the soundboard. They have an algorithm that uses the sounds that are on the micro SD card, or for some soundboards, it's just flash. The sounds are flashed to the board itself, and they don't have a micro SD card. But it uses the sounds that are on the board or on the micro SD card with an algorithm, so it can play smooth swing pairs and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get too technical, but just know that the board is doing the work. It's not the micro SD card doing the work. It's the board that's pulling sounds from the micro SD card or from the, the RAM or whatever on the board, and it's putting it through to the speaker, and you're actually able to hear it. The soundboards, there are different. So I'm actually going to show a demo of all of these soundboards. You'll be able to tell. If all of these soundboards in these Sabers had the exact same speaker, there would still be a difference in sound. I'm telling you. If they all had a 28mm Vekko bass speaker, if all 5 of these Sabers had a 28mm Vekko bass speaker, you would still hear differences in audio quality, loudness, dynamic range, all of that, because of the soundboard. The soundboard is what makes the magic. Without the soundboard, there's no sound. You can have a speaker, but if there's no soundboard, there's no sound. So, soundboard is what makes it work. Crystal Focus 10, Proffie, Asteria, Golden Harvest, all those soundboards support smooth swing. I have 4 soundboards here that support smooth swing. That is the Flyte soundboard, or the Asteria Light soundboard, the Diadium 3 soundboard, and the Electrum Sabercrafts, the Crystal Focus 10 in the Sabertrio Vektra, and the Proffie 2.2 in my Fallen V2. The last one on this side right here, this one does not support smooth swing. This is a Crimson Dawn Shrike using the V4 soundboard. LGT, this is an LGT Saber. LGT recently updated, within the last few months or so, updated their soundboards and cores to the V6 or the RGBX soundboard. So if you look in the top right hand corner of the video, I actually reacted to a video of the V6 RGBX soundboard in the past. That definitely does sound a lot better than what this sounds like in terms of, overall audio quality, smooth swing capability, sound fonts. It just sounds a whole lot better. I don't have a V6 core. I don't have an RGBX core. I have the V4 core. I just never, got around to buying one. I'm not sure if there are comparison videos out there versus, V4 versus V6. I'm sure there are. I mean, there are so many out there in the world right now that someone's bound to have a comparison video, but I don't have one, so I can't make that comparison. But I do know for a fact that the V6 sounds better than the V4. So that's just something I wanted to mention, because soundboards play a massive part, arguably, or the biggest part in sound. If you don't have a good soundboard, but you have a great speaker, it's still not going to give you the best sound. That's like putting Lamborghini tires on a Honda Civic. It just doesn't make sense. It's not going to make you go faster. It may look cool, but it's not going to make you go faster. It's the same thing with having a great speaker but a bad soundboard. It's limiting. It's limiting the potential of the Saber. It's limiting the audio quality, all of that stuff. So just keep all that in mind. That's not everything in the world about, audio quality and sound quality and stuff. Those are just a few things that are applied to the Saber community and sabers and soundboards and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to mention that before I go into the demos and show you what these actually sound like. So what I'll try to do is I'll just run through them all. I have my own opinions on all of these already, but I'm going to let you all hear the difference. Remember, I'm not going to be able to tell what this sounds like on video because I'm going to try to like move the mic back and stuff so it doesn't like, blast your ears. But I'm not going to know what this sounds like on video until I check the video. So please just bear with me. I may have to record this multiple times just so I can get it, right so it doesn't, blast out your ears. But I'm going to try to do this as best as I can with the sabers at the same distance from the mic, all that stuff. So let me just get into it. I'm going to start off with, I'm going to just go right to left. I'm going to start off with the Crimson Dawn Shrike with the V4 core, the older soundboard that LGT Sabers used to use. All right, I think I have this set to the Cal Kestis font. It's not the exact same Cal Kestis font that you'll see on the Fallen V2 and the Sabertrio Vektra because I set those to the same sound font. I can't have the same sound font on all of these because you can't customize the soundboard on this. You can't customize the fonts or anything, so you're kind of stuck with what you get unless you get, a Proffie version of this from Crimson Dawn, Dark Wolf, LGTs. So just keep that in mind. I couldn't get the same sound font on all of the sabers, so I kind of just did my best to pick, basic sound fonts on all of them. So this is the Cal Kestis sound font on the Crimson Dawn Shrike. Let me back up just a little bit. I'm going to try to keep these all the same distance from the mic so you can hear it all. So you notice I wasn't even moving it, and it still made the swing sounds. See, I'm not... See, the algorithm is kind of skippy, the soundboard is kind of skippy. That's probably why they upgraded it, because it just didn't sound that great. It sounds a whole lot better on the RGBX Sabers, the V6 Sabers that they now sell. Okay, so keep in mind, that's not smooth swing. That was relative smooth swing back in the day. That used to be the industry standard, believe it or not. And if you've been watching my videos, then you know that that is nothing compared to today's industry standard. So, what this next saber is the Pach Flyte. And I firmly believe, and I still believe and have believed for a while now, that this is the best saber under $150. It's dueling capable. You can switch out sound fonts. You can customize sound fonts. You can set a certain color for one font. You can set a different color for a different font, which you can't do with the Crimson Dawn Shrike. You can't do that with any LGT Saber unless it's a Proffie because of the way that they make their boards. So I just find this Flyte to be the best saber on $150. Go check out my video in the top left or top right corner of the video right now to see my full review on this. I love this saber. This is my favorite budget saber that I have. So I'm going to turn it on. Okay.
Let the negotiations begin.
It's an Obi-Wan font.
Missed me.
So you can tell it's way louder than the Crimson Dawn Shrike is. There's way more bass.
Very confident, aren't you?
It can play quotes, which that one can't. So obviously you can tell that this saber has way more dynamic range, way more bass than what the Crimson Dawn Shrike does. And as you can see right here, so you can see that silver piece in the middle, that's a bass speaker. And I'm going to unscrew the pommel on the Crimson Dawn Shrike real quick. if you can see it, it may be hard to see. That black piece in the center, that's what they'd call, a premium speaker. It's not a bass speaker. It's not, a high dynamic range, full range bass speaker. That's, that was the industry standard back in the day. And they've upgraded it. Now if you buy a Crimson Dawn Shrike, it's going to come with the V6 core, the RGB-X core, the RGB-X soundboard, and it has a bass speaker. They totally redid the cores and the chassis for those, and they have a bass speaker, and not this little black premium speaker. It has bass speakers now. So Crimson Dawn Shrike, then the Pach Store Flyte. You can obviously tell that the Pach Store Flyte was way louder, way clearer, and had more bass and dynamic range, and it was smoother on all of the swings. Alright, so next up is the Electrum Sabercrafts Evo-Flex, and this has the Diadium 3 soundboard. The Diadium 3 is a little bit different than the Pach Store Flyte and the Crimson Dawn Shrike, in that it has smooth swing, classic swing, and hybrid swing. So I'm going to start off with the sound font called Kinetic, which is just a basic sound font that they have pre-installed on here. You actually have to buy it off the website. But this is nearly at master volume, and this is with the classic sound preset, audio preset thing. So I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it. Every time I go to swing and the saber tries to make a swinging sound, there's like a click or something, or a pop right before it. And remember, just like the Crimson Dawn Shrike, this was the industry standard back in the day. And this is the classic sound preset. This is not the smooth swing. So I'm going to change it right now. So this is hybrid mode. Half the time it plays the accent swings when you swing it hard, half the time it doesn't. That's just what the Electrum Sabercrafts sabers are known for. Their app is buggy, and the soundboard is pretty buggy. Alright, and then next is smooth mode. Power that one down. So my thoughts on this, I'm probably just going to say my thoughts after each one. So my thoughts on this one is that the way that Diadium 3 uses smooth swing is different from the way Crystal Focus 10, Golden Harvest, Proffie, all the high tier soundboards uses smooth swing. So with Diadium 3, what it sounds like it does is, instead of using smooth swing pairs, which are totally separate audio files from a hum, if you buy, a Crystal Focus 10 or a Proffie sound font, there are different actual audio files for hum, smooth swing. It'll say like swing L or swing H, high-low swing. I mean, there are different audio files. What it sounds like for this is that Diadium 3 takes the hum, and when you swing the saber, it raises the volume or the pitch of the hum, which I don't entirely like. I'd rather it be a totally different audio file mixed in together, and I know that's hard to do, but Crystal Focus 10 and Proffie use it seamlessly. So I'm not sure why Diadium does that, but it does sound a little weird, and sometimes it's skippy and it just doesn't sound as great. But that's what it sounds like that this does. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what it sounds like to me, at least. So next up, we're going from the Electrum Sabercrafts Evo-Flex with a Diadium 3 soundboard to the Sabertrio Vektra with a Crystal Focus 10 soundboard, and this has a 28mm Vektra bass speaker. So actually, let me go back to the Electrum Sabercrafts Evo-Flex. I want to show you the soundboard and speaker on this one, because I showed you the speakers on the other one. So that one has It's like an all black speaker. This is a different speaker than the other two. All 5 of these Sabers have different speakers. And then it's hard to see. Now, speaker's talking to me. You can kind of see the soundboard. It's really hard. It's like this long. It's a really long soundboard. But speaker's right there. Got like a kill key, micro SD card and stuff, all that. This speaker is not as good as a normal bass speaker than you're going to see. So you're going to see it in just a second. But this sounds like a mix between the premium speaker that like the Crimson Dawn Shrike uses and the bass speakers that the other 3 over here use. So I'm going to show you the difference with the Sabertrio Vektra. So keep what you just heard with that Electrum Sabercrafts Evo-Flex in mind, and we'll do the Sabertrio Vektra. Alright, so the Sabertrio Vektra with Crystal Focus 10 and the Fallen V2 with Proffie V2.2 will be using the exact same sound font. It is Kyberphonic and K-Sys, the Survivor, and both of them are the blue one. There are like 8, 9 different sound fonts. This is the blue one. This is the first one in the package. It's pre-on. This is a really long pre-on.
Attack me again, I'll strike you down.
Get him, Cal. So I'm going to try to trigger something that the Crystal Focus 10 does that the Proffie doesn't do. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it to do it because I'm actually trying to do it, but it does happen every once in a while when I'm actually just normally spinning the saber. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know if you heard that. Just did it again. Just did it again. So, probably won't be able to get it to do it again, but what it does is, on Crystal Focus 10, there's this audible gap in between when you're doing certain movements, and I'm not sure if that's something that can be fixed by having a micro SD card with a faster read-write speed, but that is something that I've noticed on Crystal Focus 10, and a lot of people have noticed that on Crystal Focus 10, is that when you're spinning the saber and when you're doing certain movements, the saber, there will be like a gap in between one spin sound and another spin sound, or one swing sound and another swing sound, and Proffie does not do that, and I'm about to show you that. There is no audible gap like that. Something else I've noticed is that sometimes on Crystal Focus 10, if I load up a sound font, like if I turn the saber on, so I'm going to try to do it right now, actually.
You have failed me, Inquisitor.
You saw how just for a second there was no swing sound. I moved it and then it made a swing sound. I don't know why, but on Crystal Focus 10 it does that sometimes. There's sometimes a gap in between the power on and when the swing sounds. When I first got my saber, it never did that, so I'm not sure if it's a firmware issue or if I messed up my saber or something, but I've noticed that it does that on Crystal Focus 10, and other people have told me that it does that on Crystal Focus 10. So now we're going to move on to the Proffie 2.2, my favorite soundboard, what I believe to be the best soundboard, and this is an 89 Sabers Fallen V2, as you can see up there in the top right hand corner of the video. So this has a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker, and like I did with the other Sabers, so let me show you. That's Sabertrio Vektra's speaker. It's really hard to see in there, that silver thing. That's the speaker. Has a really good sound resonance chamber, which is why the Sabers sound so clear. So you're going to see the difference in sound resonance between this one and this one. I'm going to show you a comparison of both of them at the same time. The Sabertrio Vektra has a 28mm Vekko bass speaker. This one has a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker. So I'm going to show you the difference. Alright, so 89 Sabers Fallen V2. This Saber is louder than the Vektra, so I may have to scoot farther back. But you can tell there's no gap when I'm doing that motion like what I did with the Vektra. Let me try the ignition again. So, like with the Vektra, so let's see the difference. So the Vektra, when I turned it on and tried to swing it immediately, there was a gap. So let's try with the Proffie. There's no gap. So, that's the exact same sound font, but on two different sabers. So let's try them together, and I'll show you the difference. So the Vektra and the Fallen V2. Crystal Focus 10, Proffie 2.2. It's gonna do a pre-on.
You have failed me, Inquisitor.
Avengers!
Alright. Then the Fallen V2. Vektra. Vektra, Fallen V2. So, did you pick up the difference between the two? Because there is very much a difference between the two, Crystal Focus 10 and Proffie. Now, is that attributed to solely the soundboard? No. The difference is the speaker, the soundboard, and the hilt design. So, obviously, the Vektra has a different hilt design than this, has a different sound resonance chamber. So let me unscrew the pommel and the grip of the Fallen V2 to show you the difference. Because there is a difference. The Vektra's is fully open sound resonance chamber. The pommel's basically completely open. This one, the Fallen V2's, is not. So that white thing right there, the wires, that's actually an accent LED in the pommel. So it's actually partially blocking the speaker. Now, does it make a huge difference? No, it doesn't. But it is partially blocking the speaker. There's a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker in there. What's blocking the speaker is in there. It's all this stuff. Now it's kind of hard to see, but you can see through it a little bit. Those little slots. There are little holes and little slots in the pommel that the sound is coming from. But it is definitely not as clear as the Sabertrio Vektra. So in terms of, clarity, overall clarity, the Sabertrio Vektra absolutely beats this out. Now, is it one sounds amazing, one sounds terrible? No. The difference is loudness. Loudness, the V2, the Fallen V2 with a Proffie 2.2 blows the loudness of the Sabertrio Vektra out of the water. The Sabertrio Vektra is at like 70%. I think this is also somewhere around that. Probably a little bit lower. This is probably more around like 60 to 65%. I'm not exactly sure. But the Vekko speaker and the Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker, these are two very comparable speakers. If I had to get a Saber installed with one, it would be the Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker, and I'd hope that it has a good sound resonance chamber. If my Sabertrio Vektra had the Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker in it with this sound resonance, then this would probably be the best sounding Saber ever made. But this has a Vekko speaker which is still very, very good speaker. I mean, it's a great speaker. So is the Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker. So obviously you can see that speakers play an important role, soundboards play an important role, but one of the most important roles is sound resonance. I mean, look at the difference between the pommels. This one is wide open, this one's blocked off by a bunch of stuff. You probably noticed that the Fallen V2 sounds a little bit tinny. It's not horrible. I mean, this Saber still sounds amazing. This Saber still sounds way better than, 90%, 90 plus percent of the entire Saber market. It's just that this and this make a totally different sound on the same exact sound font. One sounds clearer, the Vektra sounds clearer, and it sounds a little bit more bass heavy because there's nothing blocking the speaker. This sounds a little bit more tinny, but it is way louder. So that's just something I've noticed. It has, partly to do with the soundboard, partly to do with the speaker, and partly to do with the sound resonance chamber of the pommel, or whichever part of the Saber that your speaker is in. Usually it's in the pommel. So that just goes to show that even with the same exact sound font, it can sound totally different on two different Sabers. So what you came here to this video to see, what you came here to ask me, what you came here to actually listen to me say, my final verdict, my final answer. What is the most realistic sounding Saber? How do you get to that point? What makes something the most realistic? In my opinion, the most important part out of all of this is that sound resonance plays a massive part in how the Saber sounds. Massive part, and something that a lot of people don't realize. They think, oh, I'll just have, a few sound venting holes in the pommel and it'll sound great because I have a great speaker and because I have a great soundboard. No, it's not how it works. You have to make sure that your pommel and your speaker and your soundboard all work in conjunction to have good sound resonance, good sound quality, and good overall volume. So if I had to pick one, in terms of clarity, overall clarity, the Sabertrio Vektra because of the sound resonance chamber. Overall loudness, the Fallen V2, it's just way louder than everything else. It just blows every speaker out of the water. So most realistic sounding, where do you get that answer? It's a blend of all of them. It's clarity, it's overall sound quality. Does it have a high enough dynamic range? Do you have enough range? Do you have enough bass? Do you have enough mid? Do you have enough treble? I mean, there are so many different factors. So most realistic sounding is Smooth Swing, Crystal Focus 10, Proffie, Asteria, Golden Harvest V3, Verso, those soundboards. That's the most realistic sounding. So comparing the soundboards that I have here, the Sabers that I have here, in terms of least realistic to most realistic. So the first one is the least realistic, then most realistic. Least realistic, obviously, is going to be the V4 core that's in the Crimson Dawn Shrike. Then, and this sounds weird, I would actually say the Diadium 3 is next. So least realistic, Crimson Dawn Shrike. Then I'd say this, because I don't know what it is with this Saber, but it just doesn't sound as smooth sometimes as the Flyte. I'm not sure why. Sometimes the Flyte, it sounds a little bit less smooth than this, but because this is so buggy, there are so many bugs with the Saber, with the soundboard, with the app, especially the app. I would say that sometimes the Flyte sounds more realistic than this. This is $611 or something like that, from what the person who sent this to me said. It's like $611. This is like $130. And sometimes this sounds more realistic than this. Now, it also depends on which sound setting you have this on. You can set this to classic, hybrid, or smooth. Keep in mind, hybrid, it's supposed to be a blend of classic and smooth. So hybrid is supposed to have smooth swing, and it's also supposed to have the accent swings. Half the time, the accent swings don't even activate. Sometimes the volume will just dip out during hybrid mode, and then during smooth, usually the accent swings never play. Classic, there's no smooth swing. So you got to pick your poison there. This one is just always smooth swing, or hybrid swing. It has accent and smooth swing, but the way that this one does smooth swing is different from all the other soundboards. The way that this one does smooth swing is it raises the volume and the pitch of the hum and not the smooth swing pairs being activated, which is different from all the other soundboards. And I don't know if I like it, which is why I'd recommend a Crystal Focus 10 or Proffie or an Asteria or a Golden Harvest V3 over a Diadium 3 soundboard, just because it has a totally different algorithm with those soundboards that I just mentioned, and it actually plays it the correct way with the smooth swing pairs. Now, I'm not sure if that's been fixed already in this with a firmware update or anything like that, but I mean, this is a saber that I was sent by a subscriber, and this is the Diadem 3. I mean, this saber is less than a year old, so I mean, it's not like this is some old outdated tech. So that's just what my thoughts on Diadem 3. So in terms of least realistic to most realistic, V4 soundboard from LGT Crimson Dawn Darkwolf, least realistic. Then this one, the Diadem 3 from Electrum Sabercrafts, and the Flyte. I mean, I hate to say that because this is $611 and this is $130. I mean, that's absurd difference in price for one that I'm saying has better sound quality. It's sometimes, people, it's sometimes. Because this is so buggy, you never get the best sound quality out of it because there are so many issues with it. And this sometimes sounds better. And I mean, that's just so weird. I mean, there's like a $500 difference between the two. And one sometimes sounds better than the other. So, I don't know. I'm going to say V4, then this, least realistic to most realistic. And then the big two, the Sabertrio Vektra and the Fallen V2. Most realistic. So if you're going for full accuracy and you have a saber with a good sound resonance chamber, the Proffie V2 all the way. All the way. It is so much more crisp when you're swinging the saber. Sometimes the Crystal Focus 10, it'll lag. And like I said, there are audible skips sometimes that the Proffie does not have. Now, there is a big debate over people, people fighting over soundboards and stuff that say, the ignitions and retractions sound better than the Crystal Focus 10. Sometimes I can see that the ignitions and retractions, the power ons, power offs, they sound a lot more crisp and, bass heavy in the Crystal Focus 10 sabers than on Proffie saber. I have 3 Proffie sabers, soon to be 4. So that is something that I've noticed, is that sometimes the ignitions and retractions on Proffie sound a little bit different than the ignitions and retractions on a Crystal Focus 10. However, the Proffie, because it's open source, because there's so much you can do with it, with firmware updates and OS updates, and there are so many sound fonts out there for Crystal Focus 10 and Proffie. The Proffie, I feel, sounds the most realistic out of all the other soundboards, out of all the, everything. Now, overall sound quality, I find that the Sabertrio Vektra sounds clearer than the Fallen V2 because of the sound resonance. Is it solely because of the soundboard? No, it's not. It is because of the sound resonance and the speakers. Smuggler's Outpost 28mm bass speaker I find is better than the Vekko, but because of the sound resonance, the Vekko can sometimes sound better than the Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker. So, Proffie V2.2 I find sounds more realistic. So the whole reason you probably clicked on this video is to see what is the most realistic sounding lightsaber because of the title of this video. The most realistic sounding lightsaber depends on the speaker you have, the sound resonance that you have, all the other little things like the micro SD card, your battery life, the little stupid things, they actually make a difference. But the sound resonance chamber, the speaker quality, and the soundboard also play a massive role in the overall sound quality of your saber. So if you could pair a great sound resonance chamber with a Proffie 2.2, it's utterly astounding. If you can pair a great sound resonance chamber with a Crystal Focus 10, it's going to sound amazing. If you can pair a great sound resonance chamber with a Golden Harvest, with an Asteria, it's going to sound amazing. So realistic, I'm talking about full 100% coverage when you're swinging the saber. The Proffie 2.2 takes the cake. Ignitions and retractions, sometimes it's Crystal Focus 10. It's one of those wishy-washy things. But I'm talking about my personal experience, the months that I've had with these sabers. The most realistic sounding one is a Proffie 2.2 with a good speaker. So, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and may the force be with you.